just don't get the mindset of coming out of a story like Midnight thinking there was even a cliffhanger. God, what would that episode even look like? The late 10th Doctor comes back to Midnight, but this time, he's packing. Also, the monster looks like this.
That was a clip of me in 2019. And here's me in a video recorded just a month ago. I choose to believe that this and the Midnight Entity are two rare examples of Russell T Davies keeping a lid on it. Say what you want, but I give that Welshman the benefit of the doubt every time. It happened again. I sit on a segment for so long that the joke inevitably becomes reality, and a fandom in-joke airs on BBC One.
I've been here before.
Will we ever reach the true bottom of this barrel? Hey, slow your roll, Sam. We know nothing is sacred in the series. That anything can happen in Doctor Who inevitably will. I based a web series around it. The Midnight prequel. We have seen the Midnight Entity before. Now, what do we know? We know it's a playful, violent, psychic, now very physically strong thing that can eat its way to your brain and possess your heart. It hangs out on an airless toxic crystal planet called Midnight. The Doctor says it has no self, face or name, despite a ton of characters physically seeing it move. The 2008 story has the thing use he, him and it pronouns. We stan, obviously. He actually says some pretty funky stuff.
Now it wants us.
And now it wants us.
Said so. He's waited so long.
He's waited so long.
In the dark.
In the dark.
And the cold.
And the cold.
And the diamonds.
And the diamonds.
But all things considered, a cruel, mimetic, learning telepath doesn't really narrow it down. I've got friends who speculate that it could be linked to the Not Things, or maybe it's that awful thing in the backseat of that Torchwood audio. And yeah, sure, maybe. Is the entity hanging out in Wales now? Going on Torchwood joyrides? It's unlikely, but they functionally operate in the same way. To say we have a good lock on this thing implies it's a closed case, but you folks tell me that it remains enigmatic at the end of the well. We still don't know what this thing is, so its origins are up for debate.
What could possibly go wrong?
Now, according to the credits, it's called It Has No Name. Look, that's not going to work, Russell. Please don't shout at me. This is a literal sequel to the episode that unanimously should never have a sequel. Let's go one step further. If we're being overly literal for lore, let's name it. The Midnight Entity is called M. Night. And in this segment, let's break down all of M. Night's EU appearances and rate them on how likely it is to be our guy. We Always Get Out Alive is a short horror piece where Reese and Gwen are joined by an imitating mind alterer that can never be seen, but it's just behind you. It's near identical, but the backseat of Reese's car is a bit of a downgrade. Wait, what's it doing back there? How the mighty have fallen, this is sad. They then crash the car and send the voice through the windshield.
It killed the driver.
If I had to give it a rank on how much I think it is the Midnight Entity, I'll give this guy a B. While Blue Yonder, ooh, the mechanics are a little different, but I can see the link. It parodies you to others, it's got a cruel nature, you kill it by ejecting them into deadly conditions, but there's no host. And I think the Not Things from memory really go on about not existing. M. Night definitely exists. Fun fact about this scene, if you zoom in just there, you can actually catch a little glimpse of... Yeah, there he is! I don't think that the Midnight Entity is a not thing, because why depend on hysteria when you can just scare the regeneration out of somebody by doing this? D. D rank. The story Dead Air is next, and it's set after Donna has left the TARDIS. Following radio frequencies and killing all of the humans it comes into contact with, a sound-based entity that hears noise, steals the noisemaker's voice, and devours the source. With no physical appearance? This should be setting off alarm bells for a post-Donna Doctor. But in this one, perhaps he's had a while to think on that adventure. Adventure. Sorry. Traumatic experience. Because here, he can identify it as a Time Lord superweapon called the Hush. This released in 2009, so there's full possibility that this was meant to be a direct sequel. It's possible. Listen, if the two sound-based entities are one and the same, then the Doctor trapped our boy M in a sound recording and exported that motherfucker. So many similarities, and I guess it wasn't canon yet that M. Night is trapped on the planet Midnight. That's new information for us. So that might explain what it's doing on Earth. Do you want the Midnight creature to be another Time Lord thing? You really want a boring lore explanation for it. It sucks to even be discussing it, like a mystery where the question of its existence was completely rhetorical. But hey, Russell knows best. Throw Marines into the story we all had the restraint to understand didn't need them when we were 10. Makes you wonder why it wasn't flinging those tourists around that shuttle bus. That'd be way more tense. There was that time when Jack was seemingly possessed by it while discussing it on his monster files. We covered that before.
You'll be quite safe. You'll be quite safe. You'll be quite safe.
Now, could that have been a tasteless joke? Yeah, maybe. Hey, I don't know the guy. But I wouldn't mess around with something that attacks mimetically. Like, how does he even know about it? The Captain Jack Monster Files, that's that's a sequel. Yeah, sure. A Midnight sequel. Uploaded 10 minutes after broadcast. You want more Midnight sequels? The Doctor Who RPG sourcebook has a whole section with complete stories to play through in role-playing form. It's hard to know where scenarios like this sit in lore. But these events happened, we have to count them, because the scenarios have episode titles. There's Palace of the Mind. Well, after the Doctor's visit and warning, a mechanical failure happens in the Leisure Palace Spa. With no Doctor around, the events of the Crusader 50 were never followed up on. The episode Midnight became a cover-up. Which, yeah, I guess these guys seem like the type to enjoy filing a juicy lawsuit. But that would involve admitting to a judge that you tried to jointly kill a man. The events of Midnight are struck from the record. Which means the monster can strike again. After a mechanical fault, the Midnight entity slips in to the rest and relaxation spa. It enjoys a little holiday of its own. He can relax too. A sadistic round 2 on the staff and holiday makers of the Midnights Leisure Palace Spa, turning them against one another and picking them off one by one. Until you step in and save them, player. That'd be a fucking terrible DM. So wait, the Midnight entity could have gotten into the spa at any point? Like this was their first mechanical failure over however many years they were in operation? Get you a refund on that finito glass, buddy. My mate does installations for the Dalek PM. The Prime Minister of the Daleks ruled from a cylindrical cabinet of transparent finito glass. The same kind that the hotel was covered in to protect it from chitonic waves. Hang on. Why is he doing all that? Why is he in that? Did the Daleks have a run-in with a Midnight entity? I don't know. Look, we're just in fanfic land now. The Midnight entity is back on the table now. Is this the fan discussion that you wanted, Mr. Davis? Hang on, I found the page earlier. The Midnight entity gets a page because it has to be explained to the potential DM. This can't be mankind's first encounter with the Midnight entity. A century earlier, when the colony was under construction, a mining outpost dug deep into the planet's surface before falling abruptly silent. The characters arrive just in time for their ill-fated shaft to be sunk and something horrendous to be released. The Doctor Who sourcebook predicted the well like 7 years early. You might want to consider running a lighter adventure immediately after. This will really help get your group's overall mood back to normal. So if you haven't run an adipose adventure or had a famous author drop in yet, now's the time. Russell T Davies did not take that advice. The next story involves Donna throwing herself under a van.
No, don't do that. Done.
That is new backstory. They were bold. But hey, if your party survive all that, feel free to invent your own Midnight Entity lore in the second story, The Cold, the Dark, the Diamonds. After the Leisure Palace Company finally shut down and flee the planet, researchers come down to check out the ruins. And that's as far as that one goes, but I assume it doesn't go well for them. Or hey, maybe it does. We just do a thorough archaeological study and go home. Yeah, I hope we do that one on our Doctor Who D&D podcast next time. The hostess gets a little story in The Women Who Lived, recounting her sacrifice. Ironically, she still doesn't have a name, which seems really mean. S tier. Yeah, because that is the Midnight Entity. No two ways about it. But that's not the case for this last one, because this one was released before Series 4 was even being written. And might be a conclusive prequel. A Storm of Angels is an unbound parallel world story where the Bowden Doctor, a very naughty boy, is visited by said aforementioned angels.
Doctor? You're tearing a rift in the time vortex! Pull back! You're dragging us both through!
Due to this Doctor's obscene tinkering with time, the universe responded by sending villainous, sentient crystals to his location. Somebody sent the same thing to me in uni. These guys similarly have no name, are disembodied voices, and have non-literal forms. Imagine flying crystals smashing on the roof of the shuttle bus and tell me you don't love it. Look, it's not one-to-one, but it predated Midnight. They possess you, control your vision, and grant wishes. It is known that Russell lifted and referenced tons from the years right before the show returned, so maybe this is another thing that got lifted. It would certainly explain why they also inhabited gemstone planets, matching Midnight's description.
Look, there he is! Look there! Where? Something so dark, like it was running.
Now, can a crystal run? I don't know, but it beats this.
It was called Midnight.
I've been here before.
Personally, I think M. Night is a girl boss gaslighter, and if they really did need to return to telly, they should have been voiced by David Tennant. What a sad state of affairs we've reached. Ultimately, it's a vague villain that should remain vague. In fact, it's so vague that Russell literally replaced a new idea with his creation. The actor and the original writer wanted. That's how generic the Midnight Entity can be made to be if you keep using it. Wank. But since Doctor Who is deathly literal, I choose to believe that he's a member of the Pantheon, and it's worshipped as a god by the adherents of the repeated meme. Yeah. Oh, I bet Russell would love that and all.